John Bohlinger with Premier Guitar. So I'm hanging at Chateau Relaxo with my buddy and colleague, the lovely and talented Chris Keys.
Hello, everyone.
There he is.
Hey.
So Chris and I were talking about when we're not doing videos, I write this column called Last Call. And Chris and I are talking about one I did a while ago called The Show Must Go Wrong.
Yeah.
And this one was about a while ago. There was the NHL did a Stadium Series, and what it is, they would do a hockey match. I'm not really a sports guy, but apparently they would do these hockey matches in a stadium.
Yep.
And call in a big crowd.
Yeah, my wife was there actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
good.
she saw you. She sent me a picture of you performing.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. Okay, well, good. I'm glad. It was a huge crowd. I can't remember, like close to 70,000 people.
Inside
close.
Nissan.
Right, inside Nissan.
Yeah.
Where we've done many rig rundowns. And what they did, and the NHL wanted to lean pretty hard into the whole Music City thing, so they had Miranda Lambert on one stage over here, and then they had Dierks Bentley on the other stage next to us, and then in the center they had me and some of my buddies, and we put a band together and we played for I think 10 different artists. Anyway, you can read the whole column for the whole idea, but the point of it is, it was outside, and outside gigs are
in February.
In February.
Because they do it always typically in a cold month to facilitate the ice to stay cold.
Yeah.
Frozen.
Yeah, exactly. And man, it was freezing that day. Thanks for nothing, global warming. It was so cold that my hands literally just stopped working. They were like two frozen blocks.
I know for rehearsals for that, is that something because it's outside? Are you rehearsing outside, or is it something?
Oh yeah.
It's okay, so you're getting used to playing in the climate.
Oh yeah, it was all on site, and I'm really glad we did that because during the rehearsal, I mean, I could not play. It was terrifying, and I told the producers after this, just terrifying.
Yeah.
In this column, I was talking about how Nick Jonas, who's a great guitar player, great musician,
Mm-hmm.
he played like 8 bad bars on a solo and award show, and you never saw him play again.
Yeah.
So I was like ready for a whole night of playing terrible music.
Yeah.
I just got it. It was horrible.
It was gonna be Nick Jonas, Lil Wayne.
Yeah, Lil Wayne and
John
me.
Bohlinger.
Yeah, right. And those guys sounded better than I did because it sounded like I was playing with my toes. So after this catastrophe of a rehearsal, I told the producers, man, we need some heaters on stage, which they brought on, and that helped a lot. And then they had flames shooting up, which
It's terrifying.
Yeah, terrible. No, but a welcome change. And anyway, we eked our way through this terrifying performance. It's scary anyway, playing with 10 different artists live on TV. That's always, with very little rehearsal, that's scary. But given that the weather was making everything go wrong.
Yeah.
I had all my charts on my iPad, and the cold killed my iPad.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it just so everything that could go wrong. My gear was acting up, my fingers weren't working, guitars couldn't stay in tune.
My bad.
Oh man, it was everything.
What do you think's worse for guitar and tuning, intonation? Super hot stage under the sun, or something like that where you're frozen?
Well, I would choose the heat just because your body's still working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they both are terrible for tuning, but at least your body continues to work when it's hot. And although tube amps don't particularly like extreme heat.
How do you acclimate with your hands? Obviously, you said that was a troublesome spot of performing, but do you wear gloves?
Yeah, I did. I cut the fingers off some gloves, so I used that. I had, after this very cold rehearsal, when I went back for the show, I wore like long johns and 2 pairs of pants.
Back to Montana, baby.
Oh man, yeah, exactly. My frozen roots in Montana had prepared me for that. Many layers of clothes. I used a thumb pick, which I'm generally only like a thumb pick for like pedal steel or acoustic stuff, and it's always a little bit awkward when you're playing,
Yeah.
stuff. But I switched to that because I couldn't hold a pick. Um, so there were a lot of. That's the thing about being a professional musician or a professional anything. If it's your job, you don't get an opportunity to explain or make excuses. You just have to deliver.
Yeah.
And unless you can hit the curveballs, you're not going to make it in the majors. Because anybody can do it when conditions are perfect.
Yeah.
But number one, being on TV, that there is that red light fever of.
Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I do now. I mean, it was.
'Cause you do it for a while. You've been doing it for a
Oh
while.
yeah,
that
I've been
type of
doing it a long
environment.
time. But the first time, I played like a TV show was like 30 plus years ago, and I did have a second of like that red light came on. I'm like, oh God, and there was a moment
Yeah.
of panic before it kicked in. And I've seen some people, really good musicians, never quite make that adjustment, be able to take that breath and
Yeah.
get it out of their head.
I'm sure it's some sort of an adrenaline rush where you're, not to use the metaphor of chasing the dragon, but it's like where you're probably with that energy of the nervous, but also, creative energy of seeing that light and knowing it's go time.
Right. Well, I mean, Chris, you've seen people on camera giving interviews
Yeah.
that melt down.
Yeah.
You've seen artists.
But the thing is, we could always hit stop and redo it again.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Everyone always sees the best take, but when it's something that's live TV,
yeah,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, it's and that's terrifying. But I do think there's a certain magic to when things are out of control because you never know what you're going to get. People react differently. It's going to feel a little different, and I think that's the beautiful thing about a live performance. That's why people still go to the theater.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be a little different. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing where, and this applies to certain bands that change up set lists more so than bands that calculate it out and do the same run for the same tour.
Right.
But like I've gone to multiple concerts in a row, knowing people that don't get it is like, why would you go to see the same band 2 nights in a row? It's like, because it's a completely different experience.
Right. Well, depending on the band.
Yeah, but like that's the bands that do that are the ones I would pay money to do.
Exactly. There are a lot of big bands or big acts that I've worked with that are augmenting their sound with tracks, and at that point you have no leeway. It's gonna stick to that grid.
Yeah.
And I find that way less interesting. I like it when things can go wrong.
Yeah.
You can call an audible or.
Here's the one thing and it's because it's off that makes me think is like, do you find that you enjoy performances as a spectator differently than, let's say, a layman that just, like my dad who just enjoys going to concerts that doesn't know, oh, was that a 58 he's playing and then also hearing those things, does that impinge on your enjoyment of because you're detracting like, oh, they're playing tracks, this is the same set list they played last time.
Yes.
So it's a thing where like we're a little bit more discerning.
Yeah, and I mean the hell of it is, as a musician you can't just enjoy the show. You're always thinking about, well, the mix is wrong, and you can't hear the guitar, or drums are too loud, or that stuff. I think about the mix all the time, and then you're thinking about how they're played, and it's overthinking rather than just enjoying.
Yeah.
I mean, do you find that true when you're
for sure. It's funny because there's times where we'll go to concerts associated with the rundown because we'll get tickets or asked to go and we'll go, and there's other times where I'm a paying spectator, but I can't. I've been doing this for over 15 years. I can't shut the brain off where it's like, yeah, is he playing through that or what's he? You know what I mean? Like it's funny. It's just it's a mind thing.
Yeah.
That we've accrued over our time doing these things.
Yeah, and like you and Perry will think about stuff like lighting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which nobody cares.
I think a lot about that like on video screens, whether it's a
Right.
festival or just a band that like a production level thing that happens at the Bridgestone.
Yeah.
Where they have screens and stuff, and I'm like, why is he not cutting like this is the guitar solo,
Yeah.
and they'll be focused on the piano player. It's like, no, this is the moment.
Right.
Cue the cut.
Yeah, yeah. And it undermines the whole experience because we can't just enjoy it. We're analyzing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said. I'm sure also being in a band, you're inside yourself thinking about what you're doing and reacting to the elements and what you're hearing. But then it's also the organism that is the band.
Right.
It's 10 different types of people interacting and trying to coexist in this 4-minute red light pressure cooker.
Right. And it's almost like it's like that whole butterfly effect or three-body problem. You know, the more things you introduce, the more variants there are. You know, and it's going to go somewhere different. And that's what I love about live performance, and that's what I love about when things don't go right, because it you know, the show must go wrong. Because when things don't go right, it really gets interesting.
You strike me as a guy that tries to learn from the mistakes rather than almost be shameful of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think, who was it? I think it's like something like Alec Baldwin I saw recently in an interview, and he said, no, it's George Clooney. And George Clooney said, success doesn't teach you anything. You learn from failures. You learn from mistakes. You learn from things go wrong.
Yeah.
And man, that is so true. But you know, from years of playing crappy gigs, you really do pick up these kind of tricks where after a while you're cool with whatever they throw at you.
I think the last thing I'll ask you before we get out of here, John, is because we're in a city, music city, guitar town, and you have so many people probably in your Rolodex or your iPhone contact list of who you could contact for a gig like this or anything that you're doing on a live TV event. Is it matter who you, because anyone can do the job.
Yeah.
Does it play into who can hit the curveball when it comes to selecting the crew?
Absolutely. That's the players. There's a handful of players that are on my first call list that I call for this stuff, and all of them are vetted. They all have been through it. We're like old war buddies. We've been through
the trenches.
yeah, we've been through these terrible gigs together, and we know, okay, worst case scenario, it's not gonna be worse than that NHL Stadium thing, you know. And actually, at the end of it, that was so rewarding because it turned out great. We had a great time, and everybody was happy with it. And had it all gone right, it wouldn't have been as cool. Wouldn't have been as fun.
Yeah. Now I keep thinking of questions. Is like, do you remember those types of performances, or do you remember the ones like the home runs, the ones that like everything was perfect? Which ones stick with you longer?
Oh, I find those far less memorable because because if it goes to plan, which is rare, but if it goes to plan, it's almost like you already knew it. It's a foregone conclusion. It wasn't that big of a challenge. But when it could go anywhere, when it can really go off the rails, ruin your career. That's what it's. That's gambling, man. That's putting everything on the line.
Well, man, this was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks, Chris.
Next time.
Next time.